This is James Christian Eric back here for the second segment of my show tonight, or should I say this morning, because it is almost 1 a.m. here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for another live broadcast of Real Still Sports on Spreaker web radio. And I'm going to be starting to do something different. There's not a whole lot individually amongst topics to talk about, but I kind of know a lot about just about everything. So I'm going to be basically going through the polls and on Sports Nation and just answering the questions and just giving a couple 1 or 2 minute segment on each opinion and just kind of leaving it at that, and just trying to, stay in touch with everything, but at the same time I'm not going too in depth. Alright, let's start with poll number 1. There's 25 of them. Whom should the Texans draft first overall? Jadeveon Clowney, Johnny Manziel, or someone else who's looking to trade? I don't think they should draft Jadeveon Clowney, because the defense in Houston is not the problem. Get Brian Cushing back, get another starter in the defensive end, in the linebacking core. You're set for a while. I don't think you should draft somebody else or look to trade, because you may not get this chance again. I said in my last show, the Texans need to take Johnny Manziel. They need him. They need a guy who's going to come in, who's going to be a competitor, who's going to show that will to win and that desire. And frankly, I see it out of him more than any other prospect that's come out over the last 12, 13 years as a quarterback. I haven't seen a guy who wants to win this badly and who's willing to do this much to win since Ben Roethlisberger. So in my opinion, the Texans need to draft Johnny Manziel. And it's good because over 35 of the 3 polls, of the 3 choices, 38% say Manziel, 33% say Clowney, and 29% say they need to look to trade. Pick number 2. What is Jadeveon Clowney's NFL future? He'll be good, in my opinion. I actually think he'll be better as a defensive end in a 3-4 scheme, because if he can overload one side, have another guy overload the other, and just push up the middle, that could be a possibility. But I'm not impressed by how strong he is. I don't think he's strong enough. I think he's maybe just a base pass rusher in a 4-3 scheme. I think he'll be an above average starter, but I don't think he's going to be as good as everyone says. The Nation obviously disagrees. 43% say he'll be a Pro Bowler, 33% say he'll be an average starter, 16% say he'll be average, 2% say below average, and 6% call him a bust. Alright, the next one. Will anyone beat Chris Johnson's 4.24 second 40-yard dash to combine within the next few years? Players are getting faster and stronger, and over 60% of the nation agrees with me. What do I make the new rule banning most home plate collisions? A lot of times the runners are actually seeking out the catcher to hit them. So I think in a way limiting it is a good move, but I think overall cutting it out completely would be a bad move. The Nation mostly disagrees. 55% say it's a bad move to get rid of most of them. Alright, this is a big political one. Now, how soon do you expect college and professional male athletes to come out as gay on a regular basis in North America? Within the next few years? Within a year or so? Or not within the next few years? And I'm going to say it's going to be a regular occurrence within probably the next year or two, next few years, because I don't think anybody's going to come out now. I think they're going to wait to see how Michael Sam does and how Jason Collins performs during his short stint with the Brooklyn Nets. So I'd say within a few years you're going to be seeing it more commonplace. And the Nation, 46% agrees with me, 28% say within a year or two, and 26% say not within the next few years. Alright. I don't really follow boxing or NASCAR as much to talk about them. I can a little bit. How the Mayweather-Maidana fight be decided? Mayweather's going to beat him. I'd say by a knockout. That's the second highest choice. 52% say Mayweather by decision and 31% Mayweather by TKO. Alright, now, when will Russell Westbrook return to form for the Thunder? It's kind of weird because they've actually not done as well since he's come back. But I don't think it's more or less a process of him not playing well or not. I just think the fact that they need time to adjust. I don't think Russell Westbrook is up to speed quite yet. And I think by the end of the season, I think he'll be back in the swing. I think by the end of the regular season, and I think he'll be white hot during the playoffs in his return from injury. Most of the nation says 51% say he'll be back, and he'll be back to form in a couple of weeks. He tore his meniscus in his knee, so that's going to take a while to heal. By the end of the regular season, my pick was 39%, and people say he won't is 10%. I'm kind of surprised Seattle wasn't all 10% of those. Washington wasn't all 10% of those. He won't votes because of the Thunder moving from Seattle to Oklahoma City. All right, now, what am I expecting out of Derek Jeter this season? One more good year, an adequate performance, or he'll struggle? I think he's going to have one more good year. This is his swan song. This is him going out on top. I think he's going to swing for the fences more. I think he's going to be more aggressive. I think he's going to have one more good year. 55% of the nation says he's going to be adequate. 23% say he'll have one more good year, and 22% say he'll struggle. I don't think Derek Jeter's swan song is going to be that much of a struggle. What grade would I give the Sochi Olympics? A, B, C, D, or F? I gave him a C. And I have to say the competition was fierce. All the participants, gave it everything they had. But I'm going to give it a C and not an A because of the fact of how completely and totally shitty Sochi did in terms of getting, itself together for this. You had the brown water, you had dogs in rooms. Pretty gross on their part, so I give it a C. And the nation agrees with me at 37%. Alright, now what am I most looking forward to the next year? The NBA Finals, the NCAA Tournament, the Super Bowl, the World Cup, or the World Series? Honestly, I'm looking forward to the start of the tennis season because you got the March Madness coming up this Miami, you got Indian Wells in Miami and those events, you get the Masters in Monte Carlo, Rome, and Madrid coming up in May and April. Then you get the French Open, Wimbledon. Then you got the Canada-Cincinnati double in August. And then you got the U.S. Open. That's what I look forward to because those are always so tough. Tennis players aren't given near the credit we deserve because we go out there for 11 months of the year playing and fighting our asses off. These football players and these hockey players get such a long layoff in an off-season. It's ridiculous. Now, what am I most looking forward to the rest of this year? I'd have to say of these few, I'm going to completely discount the World Cup and the NBA Finals because the NBA Finals can be okay, but they're not as nearly as thrilling as the other three. And the World Cup because I'm not that big on soccer. But the NCAA tournament's going to be fun, picking the bracket, and of course you got the World Series. But come on, I'm looking forward to next year's Super Bowl. And I'm kind of surprised because that only received 15% of the votes. 40% leading the way was the NCAA tournament. Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma, is the state with the most NBA Finals votes. 36% of that state is looking forward to the NBA Finals. What does that tell you? They are looking forward to seeing the Thunder go. But you know what? Spurs kicking on at the right time, and the Rockets continue this hot form. It could be troublesome for the Thunder, especially if Russell Westbrook doesn't play well. Which team is more deserving of top seed, Duke or Kansas? Kansas struggled tonight against Oklahoma. Duke took out Syracuse. Duke has played very impressive lately. The loss to North Carolina was an abnormality. I think on a neutral court in a series, I think Duke would beat Kansas. I think they're a better team overall. Jabari Parker, I think, is better than Andrew Wiggins. I'm going to go with Duke on this one. It's a pretty tight one, 53-47, but the nation seems to agree that Duke is the better team. Now, which team do I believe will win the NCAA tournament? Florida, Wichita State, Arizona, Syracuse, or another team? That's a tough one. That really is, because I'm discounting Arizona because they did lose a key player earlier in the season, and that's going to be really tough to overcome that. I hate to do it because they're such a great story, but I kind of got to do it to Wisconsin with Wichita State because, as good of a year as they've had, it kind of didn't matter last year because they had pretty much the same competition, didn't perform as good as they did this year, and they had an 11-point lead on the eventual champion Louisville in the Final Four. They could have ended up winning the whole shebang. But I'm going to discount them only because of their strength of schedule. And that pretty much just leaves Florida and Syracuse left to choose from. And I don't see any other team like Michigan, Michigan State. I don't see Duke potentially throwing a monkey wrench into it. It's tough. I'm just going to take a whim, and I'm going to say Syracuse. And so far, it looks like another team at 45% is the favorite to win. Everybody's picking like some other team. I don't know who. I don't know if it's Kansas. I don't know if it's Duke. I don't know if it's one of the upset teams. I don't know. Next poll would be, will the 49ers reach another Super Bowl with their current core? No, they will not. And I'll tell you why. Because they've only had a couple years keeping these guys intact. And Navarro Bowman's injury is very problematic because he's not going to be back till mid-season. And he probably won't be returning to form until the end of the season. I'm not impressed with Colin Kaepernick from the pocket. I don't particularly find their receiving core very threatening. I don't find their offensive line is very good at pass protecting. I don't find their secondaries being very imposing. The one thing that they can do is stop the run and rush the quarterback, and that's about it. They don't do a whole lot else. Their running game is starting to slow down. Frank Gore is starting to hit the end of his good days. Vernon Davis, I think, still got some years left in him, but that's about it. And the fact that Jim Harbaugh damn near got traded to the Cleveland Browns, I think just kind of shows his organization at the top emotionally is kind of still in a little bit of shatters. The Ravens were a more stable team than they went in the Super Bowl last year, and that was the reason why the Ravens beat the Niners. But that's more or less opinion aside, but I would have to go on record saying I think the Niners will not reach one because I think the NFC is too deep. That they need a guy that can win games with his arm in the playoffs. And you look at the teams that have won Super Bowls out of the NFC lately. Russell Wilson throws the ball very much better than Colin Kaepernick. Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers are in a class by themselves. Eli Manning is much better than Colin Kaepernick. I mean, it's not even close. So I would have to honestly say I don't think they're going to make it. Now, over 60% of the nation agrees with me, and I get that. But if you look at the two states that said no with a predominant total, it was Wisconsin and Washington. And that's all you need to know. Packers and Seahawks. Alright, now, what do I make of the NFL instituting a 15-yard penalty for the use of the N-word? I'm just going to go off on this one because I got 10 polls left. I highly doubt I'm going to be able to get through all of them this week, but still. I want to make sure I get this loud and clear. You cannot police a racial slur on the field unless you got two guys butting heads at each other after a play is over. And one of them calls the other one the N-word or other words that are offensive. Then that's when you do it. But say you've got two black players and one of them scores a touchdown. Say it's quarterback throws to him wide open in the end zone, catches a touchdown and wins the game. And the ref's right there. And another black player comes up to him and taps on his shoulder and says, yeah, you know what? We did it. You scored. The ref throws a flag 15-yard penalty. That's the refs will call it that way because that's the way they will be instructed to do it. And no leniency will be provided because of the Incognito Martin case. In a way, I get that because you want to get that out of the NFL, but seriously, there's not much you can do on the field. Off the field's different. Really is. You've got to catch it when they're young off the field, during college and high school days. That's when you got to do it, right then and there. So I think that, yes, a 15-yard penalty for that is too much of a penalty. Actually, no. The fact that it could be that used in that extremity, I think is much. But I think if you were to actually catch someone in the act doing it, I think that is actually just about right. But the only three choices are too much, not enough, or shouldn't be one. But I'm actually going to go shouldn't be one. And very good, the nation agrees. 61% agrees. And that's not because I'm trying to sound racist or anything. But I'm just saying that you really can't police it on the field. You really can't. I wish it would be better in 2014. Yankees or Florida State baseball? Yankees. Well, the nation disagrees, 55-45. It's Derek Jeter's swan song. They signed Brent Gardner to a deal. A-Rod's not there to be a big media circus. They'll finish into the playoffs or something like that. I don't know if Florida State's going to win the whole thing. All right, what do I make of the Rangers extending Ron Washington in the 2015 season? Considering what the Rangers were before they arrived there, and the fact that they made 2 World Series and could have actually won one not too long ago, I think it's a great move. He's meant so much to that team, and it's more than enough to extend him. 77 to 23%